capital grant of $93,400 for our rink project. I don't know if anybody's going to come to actually do a presentation, but certainly we want to get that documented, that it certainly allowed us to do what we need to do to have a rink. And I think that's all of the announcements that I have. Deputy Mayor Smith, do you have anything to add? Does anyone have anything to add of an upcoming event that you want to mention? Okay, if not, there are no deferred items. So we'll start our staff reports. I think we will do, we'll get down to Public Works and then we'll do our presentations by our delegations, just because there's a lot of staff reports. So let's do Development Services and then Andy can go home. Tyson, we're going to make you stay. All right. So we have a motion moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Dan Meeks, that council received the construction details report November 2022 for information. And is there anything you'd like to point out in your report to us?
Nothing significant. There does seem to be a bit of a downturn, I'm thinking, with interest rates rising, but other than that, nothing.
It's about time it slowed down a little bit.
Yeah,
Give you some time to catch up on paperwork, I'm sure.
for sure.
While we think of it, can we shut off our cell phones? All right. Any questions from council on the construction report? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Next, we have moved by Dan Meeks, seconded by Bill Everett, that council received the indoor facilities activity report as prepared by the manager of development services dated December the 13th, 2022. Same thing. Andy, anything you want to point out on this?
No, nothing. But I'm open to questions if
Okay.
council has any.
Any questions or comments on the activity report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And one more for Andy, and that is moved by Bill Everett and seconded by Dan Meeks, that council received the Committee of Adjustment and 5 planning application updates report for information. And further, that council consider passing the Committee of Adjustment appointment bylaw later in the meeting. Discussion. So the whole of council becomes the whole of the Committee of Adjustment. And Cindy.
Just some breaking news that we confirmed this afternoon. There's going to be a joint committee of adjustment training scheduled for February 1st. So we'll be getting more details about that, but it's going to be at the hall here. So you don't have to travel down to Verona or anywhere else. And that will be with Tony Fleming will come in and do a review of committee of adjustment planning regime. So that'll be February 1st. If you want to mark that on your calendars from 4 o'clock till 7, I believe, with dinner included.
Breaking news. Thank you, Cindy. So we can put that in our calendars for February 1st at 4 o'clock and it's here. All right. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. All right. Now we are going to move our delegations up so they can choose to stay or they can choose to go home and have their dinner. Our first is the Frontenac Heritage Festival. And I believe we have Mike Proctor as the spokesperson. There we go.
Well, good evening, afternoon, everyone. This is about the 10th time I've been here looking for money. It's very nice. We're very pleased that this year, after the 2 or 3 year hiatus, that we're actually going to put the Heritage Festival back on again. It'll be a somewhat watered down. Some of the events that we did before, they were getting old and people just didn't show up for them. So we're going to drop those. But some of the ones that were very well attended, we're going to keep those. Rob is here. He's been doing the variety show or talent show, and he's going to be doing something like that again this year.
Good.
Hi, council. I like the upgrades. Everything looks really good up there. Congratulations, guys. Yeah, so we're really excited to be able to present the Frontenac Heritage Festival one more time this year. So my event specifically is one of the front runners that happens on the Friday night. We're going to switch the venue from the high school to the Oso Hall, as it's kind of well suited for this kind of performance now. And I understand that we know the people who rent it out and we get a great deal. Yeah, so we're going to revisit an old friend and redo Frontenac's Got Talent. So it'll be an open call audition that we'll put out in the new year. And on the Friday of the long weekend, we will host a little variety show here. And I don't know, your event doesn't always take place on the Heritage Weekend. Is that true?
No, the event that I'm doing personally is a camp out, winter camp out, and we do it according to the weather. It'll be around the family weekend in there somewhere, but if it's going to be rainy or we have a rule of thumb anywhere below -15, we're not doing it.
I thought you picked the coldest night to have it.
Well, we have in the past, and that's we had a lot of fun a few years ago. We were doing it -40. We had the last one they had in Arden, -40, and it just froze. Oh man, awful. But we heard about Yellowknife. They had a ski thing and it was -20 and they closed it. Bunch of sucks. So anyway, for safety's sake, we kind of picked -15.
Good.
It's going to look like it's going to be colder than -15. We'll change the date. But it will be around it, and we have a 10-person minimum, or sorry, 10-person maximum, and it's full now.
Good.
10 people come.
And your council rep is Cindy. Oh, Craig.
Great.
Craig.
There he is.
Yeah, we had Cindy was for many years. And we had
Yes.
Great rapport with Cindy. She's very helpful. And we're looking forward to working with Craig.
Okay, good.
And we'll be having our first meeting very soon, I think. I'll call, if we get what we're asking for tonight, I'll call you and let you know. So we're
It
here
depends
tonight.
on what you're asking for.
So we're here looking for $1,000. That's what we've asked for every year in the past. And that's for seed money, for advertising, for different events. You have some things you have to pay for, a sound system or different things that you might have to pay for. Most of the advertising we're going to do online, so won't be no charge. There will be some in the paper, there will be some costs. And I doubt we're going to use the whole $1,000, but if we had up to 1,000, I think that would serve our needs.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from council for the folks at the table? I have Craig, go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Are you guys doing the polar bear plunge this year?
Nobody has stepped forward to do that. The way we do it, no one person does everything. Rob tried to do that a few years ago. He tried to do everything and it just would kill him. So if somebody wants to do it, we're certainly open to people doing it. We talked to the group in Arden if they wanted to do something in Arden, but nobody has stepped forward yet to do that. I know the last couple of years, the polar plunge, the numbers have kept dwindling. And I don't know if it's run its course, and things do that. I remember Peter Bell had his house out on Fall River Road, and it was very well attended for the first 3 or 4 years. And after that, he just stopped doing it because it was done. Everybody had seen it. And that's kind of what we have to do. We have to change and evolve. And if
Okay.
somebody else has an idea they want to do,
Yeah.
if you want to run it, Craig, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, well, I was just asking, we're thinking of holding a 3-on-3 hockey tournament at the rink on one of the days there. And if you guys weren't doing it, we were going to put the bubbler in at Gill and maybe do a polar bear plunge thing there. I just wanted to see, make sure you guys weren't doing it.
I think that anything that we can add in that capacity to our very kind of muted starting point will just benefit the whole event. And we could even advertise it as part of the event, just because it's not necessarily Mike or I. If you're involved in some way and we can facilitate that, we'd love to help promote that too.
One of the money aspect of it, one of the reasons we do this is to bring business and help to the local businesses. It's the toughest time of the year. And in the past, we've gone and asked for donations. It's counterproductive to go and say,
Yeah.
we're going to help you, but you have to give us money.
Yeah,
So we're not doing it this year. We're not going to ask people for money because they've had businesses, and there's so few of them now. They've had a tough time.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to do some fundraising, that wonderful. Around that weekend, it doesn't even have to be that weekend. but close to it, the winter time.
Okay,
We'll certainly
Lynn,
incorporate it.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just was curious, is there anything planned for Arden for the Heritage Festival?
Not the Heritage Festival. There's the Kennebec Lake Association that sometimes has a event on the lake there. And I've tried to get hold of the Gord Brown, who runs that.
Yeah, I was with Gord Brown last night at our rec committee meeting in Arden, and he is definitely doing something.
He is doing it. Okay. good.
And on the Sunday, the Matsons are also having activities going on their property.
They're gonna do that logging
Yeah.
display again? Good,
Yes, they are.
good.
So
Okay.
I just didn't know if anybody was planning on anything at the hall.
No, I haven't heard anything.
It's,
I-
in the past, there have been things going on at the hall, but no one's spoken to you yet.
I've talked to different people who have done that in the past and they're not interested. Again, they've had, the numbers have been dropping over the years
Mhm.
and they want to do something different. If they're going to do something, it'll have to be different.
it sounds like you need a committee meeting to talk about all of the stuff that could happen. And you do have some time, which is great.
We'd always be happy to help co-promote either of the events, like in the Kennebec groups and the Arden groups, even if it's not specifically about this. Doesn't mean we can't create a promotion about the weekend
Yeah.
and ensure people know all about what's available.
I will make sure that I speak to them and have them pass information on to you then.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good, good. Okay, I have a motion and it's moved by Craig Middleton and seconded by Susan Irwin, I think. That council received the presentation from Mike Proctor and Rob Moore regarding the Frontenac Heritage Festival for information. And further, that council support funding for the 2023 festival up to an amount of $1,000. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. There you go. Thank you very much.
I was in a car accident. So.
Yeah.
And that's
So
what
one-
I right with, so I'm going this way.
It's a good thing Michael signs the checks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now online we have Christine from Quinte Conservation Authority. Hello, Christine.
Hi, thank you very much for having me here today.
Thank you for being flexible to move your delegation up.
Oh, of course. Yeah, would you like me to begin or?
Yes, please
Okay.
go ahead. The sound isn't great.
Oh.
Chris, is that something we could change? We'll just work on the audio a bit, Christine,
Oh.
so.
Yeah, yours is.
Okay. I'm not sure if I can do anything on my end. I haven't had any issues on my end in the past, so I wouldn't know how to resolve that.
It's better now.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and maybe I'll turn my speakers down so that you don't get any echo back. So I prepared a report that should be in your package regarding an interest in undertaking floodplain mapping for the lakes that extend from the south end of central Frontenac, Crotch Lake, up to Kennebec Lake and Big Clear Lake. This is an area in Quinte Conservation's jurisdiction that we don't have any floodplain mapping, and that's not really typical for how we do business. So our main mandate is to protect people and property from flooding. We do that in a few different ways, one through regulating development, so making sure that when people are building new buildings, that they're far enough from the water's edge that in the event of a flood, they shouldn't be affected. And making sure that they have safe access to their properties through their driveways and the roadways, culverts and bridges. We also review those to make sure that they can pass certain amounts of water. And then the other way that we protect people and property from flooding is through our flood forecasting and warning program. So we do our best to predict when floods will occur, and then we warn our municipal emergency responders and members of municipal staff who can use that information to warn the public, potentially evacuate people if it is very dire, close roads, things of that nature. So Quinte Conservation has applied for funding, federal funding through the Flood Hazard Identification and Mapping Program. This program is administered by the province through the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and we anticipate that we will be successful in getting a 50% grant to do this work. So I guess our ask is for contributions from the township of Central Frontenac to support the other almost 50% of the project. Quinte Conservation is contributing about 11,000 or so in kind. We know this area has a lot of development pressure along the waterfront. There's a significant fluctuation in water levels on some of these lakes, road washouts that have happened in the past. I've also have been looking into opportunities to save some money for the township by bundling some projects. So I'm also hoping to undertake dam safety studies for the 3 dams in Arden this upcoming year. And we already have funding allocated municipally or through the Quinte Conservation capital budget for this. And we are sometimes successful in getting provincial dollars to offset those costs as well. And those 2 types of studies use the same technical models. So I think I can save quite a bit of money by doing all of the work at the same time, using the same consultants, and then can pass those savings on to the township. We've applied for 5 projects in total, this being one of them, and we have about 6 municipalities on board for the other 5 projects. So I guess if council has any questions, I'd be really happy to answer.
Okay, let's open it up for questions or comments. Philip, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You just mentioned the dams in Arden, and I just wanted to find out, is that not a special levy back to the municipality if you're doing work on those dams? And if so, were we aware of that so we can plan for that future work as well?
If I may, in 2022 or 2021, I believe, the Quinte Conservation Board of Directors and I believe our municipalities signed on to our 10-year capital maintenance plan. And what we've done is looked at all of our capital investments needed for the next 10 years and spread out those costs for municipalities over that time period, so that when there are major projects in one municipality, those costs are fully borne by that municipality for that year. So that's the structure that we have now. And so your municipality should have a record of what your contributions would be each year for the next 10 years.
And I guess that's something at budget time we'll be reviewing, because we do have 3 conservation authorities. And if they all hit us at the same year, it's going to be trouble for sure. And our treasurer is coming to the table. Michael.
Hi, so just to let council know, we have in the past received special area levies from the different conservation authorities, and I put that in the budget each year. I'll have to look for a 10-year report, but it is put in each year that we have budget.
Okay. Okay. Craig, go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. 2 questions. How much are you asking for?
Yeah, Quinte Conservation is asking for $85,900, which is the total project cost. It's changed since my report because I've been in talks with the province about what is eligible and ineligible. The total project cost is $194,000.
And my second question, I guess, is do we have any issues with flooding in this area now?
As far as our staff are aware, yes, there are flooding issues. Notably in 2014, I believe 2017, we actually have some photos from that time. I'm not sure if I can share my screen. Let me see. I can't share my screen, but I do have photos of flooding, and I've heard of recent road washouts as well in this area. Now, some of that is due to Beaver Dam washouts, and so that I'm hoping to include that as a provisional item as part of the request for proposal from consultants to say if Beaver Dam is holding back, you know, the amount of water that we see in this township washout, what could be the impact on our lakes and on our roads.
Just if you have a couple pictures, if not, you could always
Okay.
send them to us.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize that had been enabled. I apologize. Here we go. So these are from the whoops. Okay, let me get out of that. We'll just do it this way. Can you see the 4 photos on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so these are from the Bull Lake, Arden area, and then I believe that's Cranberry Lake Road as well, at Arden Road.
Okay.
And even now, if you, we had staff out there recently, and they said that water levels do look high, even though it's not really our typical flood season right now.
Cindy, go ahead.
If I may, through you, Madam Mayor, I actually have photos that I can share with the committee, everyone here, if they want to see what kind of flooding there was. For example, the Salmon River Bridge out on number 7 highway, there was only about a foot between the bridge and the water level. And normally it's probably 8 feet lower than that. The whole park was gone. It was wild. So.
And the thing to know, the important part of this mapping is so in future, when people want to build in certain spots, we know exactly where they would be in risk and the fact that they would have to move back or not be able to build at all, depending on what the mapping shows us. So it is an important planning tool down the road. Susan?
Just a question about the federal funding and when you might anticipate hearing whether or not you've been successful.
Great question. I can't say anything official. I guess I'm bounded by a confidentiality clause.
Understood.
Is that enough to tell you?
Yes.
What I know or don't know?
That's fair. So I don't need to ask my second question, which would be, what is the kind of backup plan if the funding didn't come through?
Right. Yeah, I don't think we would have to worry about that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions for Christine? I have a motion moved by Craig Middleton, seconded by Susan Irwin, that council received the presentation from Christine Philpott, Water Resources Manager at Quinte Conservation Authority, for information, and further that council supports the request for funding in the amount of $85,900 from Quinte Conservation Authority to support the Salmon River Upper Lakes Floodplain Mapping Study application, and that the request be funded from reserves and or through the 2023 tax levy through the 2023 budget process. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Christine. And
Thank you very much.
we'll be back after budget time and after you hear back from the feds. Okay. Now we will go back to our public works staff reports. And we begin with activity report. All right, moved by Dan Meeks and seconded by Bill Everett, that council received the Public Works Activity Report as prepared by the Public Works Manager dated December the 13th, 2022 for information. Tyson, anything you'd like to point out on the report?
Through you, Madam Mayor to Council. We have recently just wanted to mention, it's not really related to the report, but I just wanted to mention to the community that we were unsuccessful in filling all of our last positions we advertised for. And there is another current job posting for an operator labor that is going to be open throughout the holiday season. And I encourage you all to share that message.
Okay. Any question or comments from council? Nikki, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tyson, I see that you've got replacing and straightening road signs. We'd spoke previously about the street lights. You said the night road patroller would be making a list of lights that are out and possibly adding that the road signs that are bent or crooked. When can we anticipate getting lights fixed? Like when will this light list be made, do you think? And when can we anticipate being fixed? And how many lights do you need to have to call in the people to repair them?
Through you, Madam Mayor to Councillor Gowdy, I checked on the status of that inquiry yesterday. Noah has received the list from the patrolman. He has compiled another list that came in through our citywide asset manager from the website, from the public letting us know, and probably some councillors letting us know. And we're going out for pricing shortly, hopefully pricing next week for a small project in late January. And to answer your final question about how many streetlights, we're close to 10, I believe, which is plenty enough to give them a few days worth of work.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned that the new brusher was used for some work in Arden. I'm just wondering when you're going to start using it to do brushing and what area. And then second, I see you've replaced a number of guardrail posts, and just wondering, because they were motor vehicle accident related, are they cost recovery from insurance, or does the township pay those?
Through you, Madam Mayor to Councillor Smith. The brusher is working. We're currently brushing in the Charlotte Lake area. We had about a 1 month delay with that machine, just a total freak accident. And within the first few hours of operating, the hydraulic ram broke on the boom. But that is up and running, and we're brushing in the Charlotte Lake area. As for the guardrails, yes, we are going through the cost recovery process right now. We had them all fixed for about 4 hours, and then there's another accident in Westport that took out a few.
Yeah,
Sorry, not Westport, Westport Road, near Westport Road.
it seems when they take them out, they take out like dozens of them. It's not just one. Good to know it's Yes, there is a bylaw.
Through the fire, cost recovery.
Good. Okay, no other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. All right. Next is a road naming. Moved by Dan Meeks, seconded by Bill Everett, that council received the report entitled Naming of Private Lane Birchview Trail as prepared by the Public Works Technologist for information, and further that the proposed bylaw be passed later in the meeting to amend bylaw 2002-125, adding Birchview Trail to the schedule to the said bylaw. Discussion. No discussion. All those in favor? Carried. So lanes are private. Anything marked lanes, or what's the other ones for private roads? Circles.
Yeah, circles.
When it doesn't have road in the name, it's not a township road. It's private. Some, of course, there's always.
New Heron Road is one of them. We own it. but we don't make it.
Okay,
My whole subdivision, Madam Mayor, is municipally owned,
and
but
it's named.
not maintained.
Yeah.
And they're all lanes or circles.
Right. Okay, so there are exceptions. All right, next we have purchase of a used single axle plow truck. Moved by Bill Everett, second by Dan Meeks. Whereas the Public Works Supervisor has received estimates to repair an existing single axle plow truck for it to be deemed roadworthy, these repairs costs were high enough to consider other options. And whereas the Public Works Supervisor has researched pricing for used single plow trucks to replace the existing truck and is recommending that we purchase a used truck rather than undertake necessary repairs to the existing truck. And whereas existing vehicles and pieces of equipment would be sold as surplus, and those funds would be used to purchase the new plow truck along with the remaining operating budgets for the vehicles sold. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Supervisor to procure a used single axle plow truck either through another municipality, private sale, or public auction as authorized through our procurement policy. Purchase of used fleet equipment section to a maximum of $90,000. And further that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Supervisor to surplus existing vehicles and equipment to offset the overall cost to purchase the used single axle plow truck. And further that the purchase of the used single axle truck be funded from Public Works reserves, and any funds from the sale of surplus equipment reimburse the Public Works Reserve. So it would come out and go back in. Okay, discussion. Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How quick of a turnaround do you think it will be to get a truck and get it on the road this year?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Gowdy, we are hoping to, if we're successful with this meeting and we're approved, we're hoping to be able to purchase one before the new year and hopefully have it on the road this winter season.
And if you were to order one to buy, you're talking a year?
If we were to put it out to tender and purchase a brand new single axle, you're looking at a minimum 1 year. Most suppliers are stroking out the expected delivery date, and they just say it'll get there when it gets there.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, Philip?
Just wanted to ask about, you're using the surplus budget from truck number 14 and 15. So is there another vehicle that's surplus that's not in the report?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Smith, there's 9 pieces of surplus equipment altogether.
Okay. Craig, go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. What is the estimated to replace the old one, fix the old one? The estimated cost?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Middleton, the box alone was 65,000. And then that we've also got some wiring issues on top of that. So that was a first estimate on the box for 65. Might be able to get it cheaper than that. We're still estimating all the repairs would probably be somewhere between $60,000-$70,000.
Okay. Susan?
Not knowing very much about vehicles, but just wondering how old is this vehicle and are there other anticipated problems that justify looking at a different vehicle?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Irwin, it's a 2007 vehicle that was purchased used in 2018. A little background on that. We purchased that. We went out to tender for some of our for this plow route to have it done by contractors, and the pricing increased dramatically. So we decided it made more sense to purchase the truck instead and do it in-house. When that 2007 truck was purchased in 2018, we only hoped to get that 3 years out of that truck to get through that 3-year contract period. Well, it's actually ended up lasting us more like 5, and we've been really lucky, but upon the last safety, it really snuck up on us with the damage. So
Thank you for that additional information.
Okay, all right. Dan?
Is there any place when you do purchase a used vehicle, is there any kind of warranty, or if you buy it from a certain place better than another?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Meeks, it's typically just a small warranty to get you basically off the lot and back to your shop, but there's no drivetrain warranty or anything like that.
Just a question for me. Do you take the mechanic with you when you go to look at these trucks?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't even have to be there.
I could go with you too, but that probably wouldn't help.
No, Madam Mayor, we have excellent mechanics. Another little background info for the new council is our newly hired mechanic, along with our current mechanic. They do all the pre-safeties on all of our vehicles before they go to get their safeties. So we're normally catching all this kind of stuff beforehand. So they're the absolute best guys to take to look at a used vehicle.
Good. Craig, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. Is there any chance, is it possible to get through this winter without this truck and wait to spring and see if there's cheaper deals on snow plow trucks?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Middleton, I think we would be risking, I think it would be a liability and we would have trouble staying within minimum maintenance standards.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Motion's carried. We haven't even got to the budget yet, Craig. All right. Next, we have a single wheel extended cab gas powered truck. Moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Dan Meeks. Whereas RFQ 2022-18 was released to procure a 1-ton pickup truck to be added to the Public Works fleet. And whereas the said RFQ closed on August the 2nd, 2022 with no bids received. Now, therefore, it be it resolved that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Manager to procure this vehicle through a sole source method, and further that the upset limit for said purchase shall be the amount allotted in the 2022 budget to purchase said vehicle, being $88,925. Tyson, this is a 1-ton pickup truck.
Correct,
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes. Questions? It's in the budget. And this is because there's been no quotes. This price was from,
This price isn't, myself and Steve estimated this price during the budget season. And when we went out to tender, there's no bids.
okay. So from here, if we approve this, you will go looking for a truck with those numbers in your mind.
That's right. And also important information for council is we will be finding a truck that meets the tender specs that we put out.
Okay. Philip.
Sorry, just Madam Mayor, I wanted to ask, this is not the first time that we've not had responses to our requests. So I'm just wondering, is it something we're doing, something we should be doing differently to get to people interested in bidding on our requests?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Smith, it's strictly the timelines and the supply and demand issues. You can ask the fire department or any other municipality trying to purchase vehicles right now is to try to stay within our fleet replacement schedule. We try to put in our tenders. One, we've even extended to 2 years and nobody can commit to it. So you're going to see this as a common trend unless the industry catches back up. But Public Works will be coming to council during the 2023 budget discussions, asking for, with presenting some options to purchase vehicles not through the tender process.
Okay. Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried. Okay. And we're moving on to waste now. Moved by Nikki Gowdy and seconded by Philip Smith. Whereas council passed resolution 92, 2020 at its March 10th, 2020 meeting, authorizing the Public Works Manager to continue the Oso Waste site as a transfer station after the landfill reaches capacity in approximately 2026. And whereas the township's environmental consultant, Cambian, has prepared documents to be submitted to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks on behalf of the township to properly close the Oso landfill and continue operating as a transfer station, which have been reviewed and approved by the Waste and Recycling Committee. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and the Waste and Recycling Committee to authorize Cambian Engineering to submit the said documents to the MECP on behalf of the township. And that whole contract was in our package, and I hope people didn't think they had to remember all of this many, many pages of that document. Any questions or comments on the motion? Pretty straightforward. All those in favor? Carried.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to thank the Waste and Recycling Committee for all their help going through all those documents. We had a very productive meeting. I meant to mention that in our activity report. We had a very productive meeting with the new committee members, and I'm excited to work with them in the upcoming year. We've got a lot to tackle in the waste and recycling side of things. So
yes,
thank you.
Thank you, Tyson. All right, now we are at Fire and Emergency Services. Chris is on board. Okay, I have a motion moved by Philip Smith and seconded by Nikki Gowdy. The council received for information the CFFR and the CFBLE activity report dated December 13th, 2022. Any questions or comments? Anything you'd like to comment on, Chief?
Not to the report so much, just to add to Tyson's comments in the vehicle. So just to give an example, we got approved for a tanker back in April, pumper tanker for 550,000. I was notified by the sales rep that that same truck now is $200,000 more, and it's a 3-year wait. So scheduling is going to be a real challenge for us. And we might actually be looking, in my mutual aid meeting last week, I was talking to Kingston. They had 2 trucks and they were $1 million each for just the pumper. So we're gonna have to rethink our strategy. So I don't know if we'll be looking at used trucks from the States. I've done that in the past, but that's something I'll have to look at and bring back to council. So, but other than that, sorry for the bad news, but that's.
I was going to say, do you have any good news to tell?
Well, I just the parade. Thank you very much for the comments on that. It was a great success, and we had all 4 stations chip in, and
Yes.
they worked pretty hard. They were like little elves running around there, so it was very good, and they were quite happy with the results. So
Good.
you're hoping next year we come back with the night parade. So
Yes,
that'll be something we'll bring to council.
yes. Smokey was walking on the sidewalks and
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you very much.
excellent. Any question of the chief on the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, Treasury. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith, that council received the check distribution reports totaling $1,463,640.14 as prepared by the treasurer for information. Questions or comments? Philip?
Sorry, Michael, I normally ask you ahead of time, but there was one for Canada Pacific Railway for 235,000. I'm assuming that's the rail crossing in Titchburn?
For Madam Mayor, Councillor Smith, yes, that's for the Titchborn crossing.
And did we not agree with them that we would defer that over?
We requested, I received no communication but the bill.
Yeah, just like we had no communication about doing it. It was called done.
So how do we express our displeasure with the invoice when we discuss deferring, and the rep from CP said that that was doable?
I don't know if Michael wants to send them a letter.
Well, I don't think Michael has much influence. I'd rather receive a letter sent from Madam Mayor.
Oh,
Or myself, we can do it.
We can send a letter for
I think
sure.
something needs to be done because one, they sent us a bill when we talked about deferring it. And then they're also not willing to do anything with the crappy crossing.
Oh, it is so rough. It's basically dip down and dip up.
Mhm.
They'll fix it. We'll just have to pay. Which is, we might be dipping a long time.
But I think we can do that. I'll look after getting that done with.
Yes. Lynn,
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So that same bill for the Canada Pacific Railway, is that the total? Or will there be any other further costs coming on that?
Through Madam Mayor, Councillor Clegg, I don't know of any other bills. We just seem to get the CP bills when they come and we pay them.
I reviewed it quite thoroughly, the submission, it was itemized and they all worked it was captured on there. So it would be a surprise to us if they.
however, we do get a monthly bill for maintenance from CP, right? Yes. So you will see the name throughout the years that you're here. Okay, all those in favor, oh, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
And Craig.
Madam Mayor, so the roughness of the tracks, then we do have to live with that, the dip in the pothole that showed up within the first week of reconstruction.
Tyson, did you speak to them about it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, they have identified that the pothole is something they are interested in coming back and fixing as a deficiency. The steepness is, they say that that's totally within their specs and that there's nothing they're interested in doing about that.
Yeah.
And Craig.
Okay, and Craig,
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Just general discussion, like Dan just said, at that training we did out in Verona, that guy from Intac Insurance was there about stuff like that. Cause like, I honestly do think that is a safety hazard, that job they did. Like somebody's gonna come through there. If you hit that at 60 kilometers an hour, you're airborne through the air if you're coming south or coming north. Like there must be some consulting or some firm that you can call to do highway safety to say he's gonna have to fix this.
maybe once Kathy writes the letter to them, she could let them know that we're not pleased with the results and that we want them to take another look at it.
Also, with council's direction, I'm not opposed to getting Transport Canada involved.
Okay. Good points. We'll start that ball rolling. Because you're right, for the amount of money we paid, it should have been a better job than that. It could have been the time of the year they did it. I don't know.
Well, it's just everything in general, sorry. Everything in general, they gave us no notice. They failed on the agreement to wait to this 2023 for payment.
Yeah.
And they just say, live with it. It is what it is. We're CP Rail and you guys are Central Frontenac and you guys won't do anything about it. Well,
Yes. We will get a letter out to them for sure. Okay, any other questions or comments? And again, I encourage counselors, because this is the first you've seen the payment voucher and there is $1.5 million being paid out. When you see stuff and you're not sure what it's for, give Michael a call. And when you call, he's got the computer in front of him and he can tell you exactly what department it's for, what it was to buy or purchase or pay for. So you'll get these every month and that's the best way to begin to understand what makes up the budget that we're going to be working on in January. Okay, all those in favor of paying the bills? Carried. Next, we have motion moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council approve the following apportionment of assessment as recommended by impact for 2022 and 2023 as applicable for the following roll numbers. And Michael, there's a whole bunch of roll numbers there, but just briefly, this is from properties that have been severed and now it's breaking it out to bill the two parties or three parties, depending on the severances.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it's normally, most of them would be from planning. Some are corrections from our own clerking department. Some are people wanting to consolidate with MPAC and then they send the direction to us. If it's any change from the way the roll was delivered to us mid-December, it goes through the apportionment.
Okay. Questions? All those in favor? Carried. And you'll see those periodically throughout the year. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith, that council received the tax sale report as prepared by the treasurer, which was conducted November the 17th, 2022 for information purposes. And that council approved for the treasurer to write off taxes on roll number 1039 060 010 09500 of $6,504.37 as per the chart below, and vest the property into the ownership of the township on the understanding that the property will be added to neighboring property also owned by the municipality. And that is a roll number there. And that council approved for the treasurer to write off taxes on roll number 1039 040 020 10300 to a limit of $21,929.60 as per the chart below, which will leave the property officially in tax sale position. And that council approved for the treasurer to include roll number 1039 080 040 18106 in a failed tax sale to be conducted in 2023. Questions or comments? Greg.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Where is the piece of property the township's taken over that butts up the township land?
There's a map on there. It's Mountain Grove, part of the trail system.
Okay, I missed the map on the email there
I'll
somewhere.
show you, but it's there.
Yeah, it's a little piece beside the trail.
Thank you. Yeah, it's right in the middle. Nobody's gonna use it. Nobody's gonna buy it. Might as well
Yeah.
own it.
Add it to the trail. Okay, all those in favor?
If I may, Adam.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Mike.
This is one of the most interesting tax sales that we've done because two people redeemed after we held the sale, had successful bidders. And there was not as many bidders as I thought we would get. And the COVID pricing, whether that's gone down, we didn't get the high bids that we normally had seen the last couple of years. And this will be the first time. So we hold these every year to let the new council know, to keep taxes down, keep people paying their taxes. Also, this is the first year I've never had to pay a surplus into the courts. So we have our minimum tender. Anybody that bids higher than that, that difference gets paid into the court, less than an administration fee for us. We used to be able to apply for it, but the province took that away about 5 years ago. It's for a public guardian of trustee office, and we can no longer apply for that. And there was at least $300,000 or $400,000 that we've obtained over the years to offset the costs that we have in running this process, which is quite time extensive. And so I'm hoping to right that wrong at some point.
Yeah, let's hope. Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Taxes have to be 3 years in arrears before they go on the list.
In a sense, yes, 3 years, 2 years and 1 day. It's a 14-month long process from start to finish.
But we do try to work with folks before we put them on the tax sale to arrange payments. And once they're arranged and if the payments are being made, it keeps them out of tax sale. But if that arrangement falters and they stop paying, then we have to take action. So we try to do everything we can to not sell properties.
Absolutely. It adds about $2,000 to $3,000 worth of costs for the whole process, which
Yeah.
we get back if we sell the property.
Yeah, so we'd rather people stay in their homes. All right, we have a motion moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council approves the CAO clerk and the treasurer to sign the renewal for the providing of insurance services with Aon for the year of 2023, more specifically for the period of January 1 to December 31st, 2023, at a cost of $228,865. It's up a little bit, but it could have been up more when you look at what the other quotes were. And this is because we do it as a group, right?
We do it as a group, and I do think that helps. And for new council's benefit, we changed to Aon about 8 years ago from, at the time, Frank Cowan, and saved about $175,000 a year.
Yeah. So all those in favor of paying the insurance? Carried. One of those necessary evils.
Yes.
Sorry for anybody that's in the insurance business, but moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith, that council approves transferring to reserves the unused portion of the 2022 budgeted projects listed on the attachment as of December 31st, 2022, which are to be completed in 2023. So just a simple explanation.
Yes, thank you. So ultimately, obviously, these projects weren't complete for many different reasons. We try our best. Money will go into reserves. And then in 2023, we'll bring it back out. So the project will still be there in 2023. You'll see if it offset by the money coming from reserves because we've already levied for the project. We don't want to levy twice.
So because it's been raised, it will be set aside and it'll be brought back in for the job to be done next year. And you'll see that a number of times in the budget. Okay, any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Right, we have another one. Moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gowdy. Whereas the Consumer Price Index, CPI, October to October, deviation is at 6.5% for 2022. And whereas the Employee Policy Manual references establishing a process for considering adjustments to the salary schedule for council, staff, and volunteer firefighters to reflect a cost of living allowance, COLA, that attracts, retains, and motivates employees on January 1st of each year. And whereas many of our bylaws increase automatically effective January 1 by the CPI. And whereas the HR committee is recommending to council that the cost of living for 2023 be set at 3.25% for salaries. And whereas the CAO clerk and treasurer are also recommending that any bylaw or policy which references an annual increase by the October Consumer Price Index, CPI, be set at 3.25% for the year 2023. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council approve the recommendation of the HR committee, the CAO clerk, and the treasurer to set the cost of living for 2023 at 3.25. And further, that staff bring back any bylaws that reference an automatic increase by the CPI in January 2023 to be adjusted accordingly. Any discussion? Michael, do you want to just do a brief synopsis of CPI?
Well, we increase things, as the report said, by the cost of living normally. We have done that in the past. Last year that changed with the HR committee changing the employee policy section for CPI. And that impacts everything else that we do. The cost would be 125,000 versus 247 at full cost of living.
Yeah.
Full CPI, I should say.
And at one time CPI was 1% and 2%, which was easy just to pass on, but over the years it's gone 5%, 6%, 7%. So,
and I can also mention, Madam Mayor, in other organizations, and we were speaking with Matthew Savino of SHRP, and they work with many municipalities and other businesses, and that is a range that everybody is using. They're not going to the 6.5. They're going anywhere around the same 3.25, 3.3. So it seems to be across the board in many areas.
Okay. Questions or comments? Philip?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. I was, I guess, the counselor that asked Kathy about the bylaws with the automatic increases. And my concern was with the cost of the consumer price index increasing so much, that perhaps not all of those bylaws need to be passed on to the ratepayers.
Yeah.
Or the
Agreed. Agreed. Okay. Yeah, Craig.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I asked before and I never really got an answer. Did the employees know that this was changing?
Yes, I believe they did. We changed it
No,
Yeah.
this year in 2022.
but we changed the policy
Yes,
and they had notice of the policy change and access to that.
yes, they do through our SHRP. And what happened is SHRP puts all of our employee policies, all our policies on there. And I think that part of the policy didn't get up in their system, but we had it in our system. So some may be saying that they weren't aware of it, but they also knew last year when it was so high at 4.9%, they got that would be changed because it's not an automatic. Okay. Does that help?
Okay. All right, Dan.
Last year, when it was at 4.9%, there was talk about revisiting that increase, was there revisited or did it stay at that 4.9%?
Last year they received
State.
5%.
4.9%.
Yeah.
Yes, that was not changed. So the HR committee at that time had went back over the policy and said, because we're not sure, and we knew that it was probably going to go up more than the 4.9, that we need to revisit it. It's not an automatic now. So every year it will be that council, the HR committee will review that and what the CPI is, the October to October deviation. And from there, we'll make a recommendation to council.
So would that be something that we should do in budget time to have a look at that increase in?
You will look at the impact of it, because HR will deal with it in October as soon as that number is known. So then when you're doing budget in, say, December or January, you will have that number that will be approved here.
Okay.
Yeah, so
If I
you'll see it
may,
every year.
Madam Mayor, it would save administrative time if council wishes to do this right now. It would be in place for January 1st. So every employee, council and volunteer firefighters would see that impact immediately versus waiting until the budget is passed. And then you get a higher dollar amount, higher deductions coming off. It does work itself out in the end, but it's kind of nice to have it now administrative wise to get that done. What I'm hoping is that we'll change that time period from October to August, and then we'd be looking at the budget in September, October, November before January 1st comes on. So normally this type of report maybe wouldn't even need to come. It's timing.
Does that not seem high though, being 8% in 2 years, like?
Not if you're an employee. But it was high last year when we did 5%, when typically, I think before that, it was like 2.5.
Anywhere from 0.9 to 3.25 or something, I'm thinking there. So it might have been 2.9 or something, but it ranged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Michael, you did that range. I think it was sort of over 5 or 6 years it had, that's where it went. And I think there was 1 year it was like 0 point.
Yeah, and I don't have that spreadsheet here, but over like a 10 or 11 year period, I think it came out to like 2 to 2.4% overall, like every year. Again, some years were 0.1, 0.9, 1.1, 1.6, 2.3 comes to mind.
Yeah, so it does average up. Craig.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. My only concern with this is there's been a long stretch of past history of how this is operated with CPI. And what's our position going to be if a recession hits next year and the CPI is 0.5? Are we still going to give the employees 3.5%? Because that, in my eyes, is fair. You can't have it both ways.
So that's one thing that Matthew said from SHRP, and I forget which company he said that maybe I'm missing something, but you give the salaries now and it's up there. You can't go back. So if you go mid-range, that seems fair to me between the employer and the employee. But Matthew said that the one company would take that 3.25 that's still there now and add that to the following year. I don't know what council wants to do, and that's why we're going to look at it each year with the HR committee and decide. There's something else I was going to say and I lost it. Sorry.
But
I mean, the labor market right now, right? It's that shortage, it's the leapfrogging. I think that whether it's every 5 or 6 years, we're supposed to go out. So if council said go up 0.1 and we do a salary review in 5 years, that salary review is going to show where we should be, where it's like I go up by this municipality goes up by that. It's a balancing act. Everything is a balancing act.
And the way this is set and what this motion says is that the HR committee will look at it every year. So if it were 1, we could still say we're going to give staff 2.5% or 3%. And we've done that in the past when it was low. And again, in order to keep good staff, you have to pay them a reasonable amount. And if the average around is 3.25, then it's reasonable to go with that number. But it's not reasonable to ask the taxpayer to pay 7 and 8% when the CPI gets up to those numbers. So that's why every year we'll take a look at it and bring a recommendation to the council as to what is reasonable.
Yeah, I understand that, Madam Mayor. But my point also is we had a job posting out there and we didn't get somebody to fill it. Because you can go work at Crane's Construction in the construction industry for $35 an hour driving dump truck and we're paying 25. And now we can't wonder why we can't get our roads plowed. That's
And-
just all my point is. I mean,
Yeah. Okay, Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. But we also have to remember this is going to the taxpayer. And if our taxpayer can't afford to buy a bag of milk and a loaf of bread because the staff are like, that they're paying such high taxes to cover it, that's a big thing too, because without the residents, we're not here and the staff aren't here. And, it's a balancing act. I don't want to deprive staff of anything. I would love to have a great raise too, but I don't want to deprive staff. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying it's a juggling act to please the residents and to please the staff so that they get the services that they want.
but if there's a foot of snow on the roads, they can't get to the store, they would get bread anyways.
Okay, we can debate this all night. The motion is in front of us. Michael, one more time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've talked a lot about CPI, obviously for salaries, but just something else to consider is the numbers that were in there for cemetery fees, 33 versus 16. Any user fee that's not increased by the full COLA or CPI gets spread across the rest of the tax base. And we are always sharing services. There's user fees, there's taxes, but I just wanted to mention that point as well.
Well, and I think the other thing with our wages, they may be lower, but you have job security, you have a pension, and you're working right at home. So hopefully that will bring people in. But right now, when you advertise jobs, you're not getting a lot of people in every industry, not just Township. Try and be McDonald's. You have to pay them every day to get them to come to work. So it's the season we're in. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Good discussion.
Thank you, Council. Good discussion.
All right, now we are at administration. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith, that council receive for information the 2023 council calendar and scheduling budget meeting report for information, and that council accept the proposed dates for its 2023 council meeting dates. And further, that council confirm the scheduling of 2 special meetings on January 19th
Yes.
and January 31st at 9 a.m. to review the 2023 budget deliberations. And just to add to that, we start at 9. We would probably go until 2 or 3 o'clock the first day, with the hopes that when we come back the second day, it might be a half a day, depending on how well we do the first day, or it could again be a full day. So you should probably clear your calendar. You'll know better after the 19th what the 31st timing will be, whether it'll be a half day or a whole day. Susan?
Madam Mayor, I'm just looking at my agenda on the Frontenac documents, and it says January 17th. So
Yes.
has that been amended?
Yes, County Council has orientation for us, Nikki and I, on the 17th.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's, sorry. we
Madam
did that.
Mayor, I have confirmed with Stephanie and the hall is available on the 19th, so she's booked it for budget.
Okay, so it will be here. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Your lives will be scheduled away. But you're hanging out with good people, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gowdy. Whereas the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act 205, the AODA, requires municipalities to update their accessibility plans at least one every 5 years. And whereas the current joint accessibility plan was last reviewed in 2018, making the requirement for a mandatory review by December 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council pass a bylaw adopting the 2023-2027 multi-year accessibility plan as recommended by the Frontenac Accessibility Advisory Committee later in the meeting. Discussion? Philip?
So going through the report, there's only 3 projects listed in Central Frontenac. So I'm assuming we did a lot more projects than 3 if you compare what the other townships have listed as their projects. Did we not run them through the accessibility committee, or like why are other projects not included in that report? We only have 3 listed.
Cindy, maybe you can answer that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Smith. I have not been involved in the committee per se, so I'm not sure of how they structure their meetings in terms of getting projects reviewed. I suspect it was just a matter of our projects didn't get put on the radar on the agenda. I agree that there's more projects that should probably be on that list than there are there. I know for example, here we've done accessibility work with this hall. There was something else I thought of, the streets, the Elizabeth streets. I know Tyson incorporated some accessibility standards in the sidewalks and whatnot. So I think that there is some information that could be added to that. And we can certainly amend this. It doesn't have to be the exact same plan that the other townships and county approve. We would just need to either make those changes this evening if we want to go ahead and pass it, or defer until January and risk the slight non-compliance until we can get the reports finalized.
But we can add to this as we go along, right? Like if we have new projects.
They meet, I think, 4 times a year, and they're always reviewing new projects. And I think the committee meeting updates always include the new projects moving forward. I'm trying to make sure that we get those committee minutes into the council agenda package. It's been challenging in the past to get those, but we can certainly put those in, and moving forward, sort of try to be a little bit more careful about what projects are being communicated. I mean, we had Bill McDonald was our county council rep. We've got Kurt Halliday as a municipal representative. Staff was Donna Longmire and David Yerkes as member at large. So we've got lots of folks from Central Frontenac on the committee. So I'm not sure why the information wasn't communicated.
And I think maybe with Nikki and yourself at county council, we'll be able to find out who the rep is going to be, because Bill McDonald was a county rep, not our own township rep.
They will be calling for new people for this next term.
Okay, so
So
we'll maybe know from there and how they work it.
The next meeting, I would imagine committees will be announced.
Okay.
Susan and then Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This may not be the appropriate time to raise a project that could be added, but you mentioned sidewalks. So the sidewalk outside of the pharmacy that slopes down towards Garrett Street, for anyone using a walker, or in the winter, it's extremely icy. It's a liability issue, I see.
I could certainly mention that to Tyson. I know they've put those little sort of pads at the intersections there to sort of warn visually impaired folks, but I'm not sure we can do much about the slope, but we'll certainly.
It's a concern.
Yeah.
You really couldn't do anything about the slope, right? You would just avoid it if you had a walker.
Yeah, that's right.
I would think.
Then you're going out onto the road.
Yeah. But you can't take a hill out.
I guess it's the gradient. Yes, I don't know what the fix is, or whether you put in a handrail or if someone's using a walker, I guess they can't use the handrail, but I just raise it as a concern.
Yeah. Lynn?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can we confirm that the 3 projects that are listed were completed?
Okay, so is Andy still here? Oh, he's gone. Just let me check here where that is.
I don't remember what they were. What were they, Susan or Lynn? Do you remember?
District 4 Fire Hall Library Parking Area Accessible Upgrades, Parham Play Area at the Parham Ball Field, Accessible Reception Area at the Municipal Office.
The office didn't happen because the renovation didn't happen. The ball field, I believe, was done, or the playground was, yeah. And the Arden is the ramp up to the hall, is it not?
It's District 4.
District 4, which would be Hinchinbrook.
District 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm not sure with respect to the accessible reception area, I wasn't sure if that referred to the previous renovations that were done to lower the counter levels, because
Yes.
That could have been.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what that was, to lower that.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
as a follow-up, with the new ice pads that are going in the Charlotte Lake and Arden, are there going to be things put in place that say that they need to be accessible?
Again, because I haven't been involved in the committee, I don't know if that project was vetted through the committee or not, or whether any accessibility requirements were discussed. We'd have to follow up with
We'd have to follow up. with them to
Tyson
see.
and the committee.
Mhm.
Accessibility is a difficult one all the way around. Okay, so there's some follow-up needs to be done. Sure.
Well, I've been to Arden's Brink, but I haven't never checked it out. But we actually, at the one in Sharber Lake, we built our pad bigger than the rink, and it's got a nice gradual grade slope of gravel down to the parking lot, so you could get up the grade, no problem, with a wheelchair up onto the concrete, if that helps it up.
But it's something we should probably find out. How do you make a rink accessible? Okay, Philip, go ahead.
But I think that's to my initial point. If we only had 3 projects go through process, then I think we're missing a requirement that we had to have all of our new capital projects go through this process. So how do we ensure that they are going through it? Or
I guess what we do is we get more involved with the county committee, and we put someone on there that's going to be alert to the projects that are happening and get that go-between happening.
And Madam Mayor, I have requested with the clerk at the county, she's copying me now on the meetings and the agendas and stuff like that. So I have an idea when their meetings are. And then I'll also know when to move the minutes over to this council package for council to review, as well as, I think, Jody, you're taking over on the staff side. So any concerns or any projects coming up, we can certainly reach out to Jody for to make sure it is on the list to get reviewed on the public design spaces. Not all projects need to be reviewed under the standard, but any parks, I think it's parks and trails and basically any public
Community
space.
halls.
Yeah. So we have been trying to make sure to remind managers when they're planning their projects to submit the plans to the committee for review.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Carried.
So Madam Mayor, can I just confirm? So we're passing the plan as it is without any amendments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, it is 5:20. I am going to suggest we take a 5-minute, wait, how much more have we got on admin? Okay, a couple more on admin, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break. Okay, moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith, that council received the report entitled Fence Viewers and Livestock Evaluators Appointment Bylaw, prepared by the deputy clerk for information. And further, that council approved the recommendation of staff to appoint fence viewers and livestock evaluators as outlined in the report, and consider passing appointment bylaws later in the meeting to confirm said appointments and establish the remuneration of same. So if someone comes in and there's a dispute over a fence viewer is appointed or is called and goes out and helps to settle it. If an animal is killed by some other animal, then the livestock evaluator has to go out to view the animal, decide what killed it, and then do paperwork. If it's killed by a wild animal, the Ministry of Agriculture will pay for that animal.
Correct.
If it's killed by a dog, then no. So the evaluator has to be pretty good at determining what the kill looks like, I guess. And then to determine the value of the dead animal, like how much per pound for a goat or a sheep or a cow. So that's kind of the story of those two jobs. And again, sometimes you never get a call, and sometimes you'll get 2 or 3 calls in a year. Okay, any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Good, we have some folks stepping up to do it for us, because it's not an easy job. All right, moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council received this report for information and considered the passage of the 2 draft road closure bylaws later in the meeting. And that's road closure bylaws for Siteman, Roland, and Emery. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And we have motion by Nikki Gowdy and Philip Smith. The council received the letter from Ontario Parks Indigenous Relations Unit for information. And further, that if council wishes to provide comments and or feedback during the consultation period, it instructs staff at the January 10th, 2023 council meeting in order to coordinate a submission in time for the deadline of January 23rd, 2023. Kathy, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. The Algonquin land claim has been on for a number of years. This and the White Duck Provincial Park that they're speaking about, majority of that is in North Frontenac Township. There is a little portion in our municipality. So they basically have already this proposal. I think it was back in 2022. They started with the comment, or before 2022, they had already discussed about the White Duck Provincial Park and what lands were going to be within that in that process. So what I think happening in here, when you look at it, the only thing that with the change, you'll see what they're proposing is areas that were going to be in the provincial park are now going to be added to the Hungry Lake Conservation Reserve. So that's the sections that are in purple on your map. The other part of, I think the other part of this is going to be the unopened road allowances they're talking about being in part of this boundary. I did not hear anything further other than they're going to be consulting certainly with lots of the public and people that are within that area to see if there's any concerns. I don't see anything really in behalf of the municipality that we have to really be concerned with. Why they're talking about the unopened road allowances is that because it's going to be into the reserve and certainly with the White Duck Provincial Park, is that people are going to be able to have access and the public to go to these park areas. But that's only my take on it, is that I don't think there's a lot of concern for us anyway on the municipality. And it has been a long time coming and it's not finished yet on these land claims.
Yeah. Philip, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering if anybody could explain what the difference between Hungry Lake Conservation Reserve is and the White Duck Provincial Park designations. And the second question I had, I think Kathy, you might have kind of already answered it, but I was just curious whether there was any road allowances that led anywhere that we might actually have an interest in.
That we'd have to certainly double check on in regards to where the road allowances are. What the difference is I think it's going to be a provincial park. The Hungry Lake Conservation Reserve, basically it's the difference in the vegetation up at Hungry Lake. If you see the difference in vegetation, it's quite different than this is going to be a provincial park. There's two different, what the actual, I can find out further for you why they're calling it two different things, but one is definitely going to be the, under the land claim, it's going to be a provincial park. And the other one's not a provincial park, but it's to do with the vegetation up there anyway. Then I'd have to.
But the conservation area is also owned by the Algonquins?
No, it is not. No,
Okay.
it's owned by the province.
So the province
Isn't it?
owns
I'm
that.
pretty sure that.
So, Madam Mayor, I did do a little bit of
she did some
digging
research.
into the conservation reserve because I hadn't heard of it, had many details about it in the past. So there is a webpage the ministry has, and I can circulate the link, but it does talk about the purpose of the reserve when it was set up. Basically talks a lot about the topography, the vegetation, mostly intended for passive recreation. They acknowledge that there's some commercial fishery and I think trapping that's done mostly from the North Frontenac side. It talks about which roads access that the Alf's Bay Road is basically, I think, the main access road and how it is limited by the fact that there's very little road access through there. So
Yeah, the Elf Bay Road, yes, because that's partly.
they call it
Cranland.
the Elf Bay Road instead of the Elf Bay Road, but yeah, whatever.
Yes. But yeah, the Elf Bay Road up in there is goes to Gull Lake and it's, yeah, it's on Crown Land.
Craig, go ahead.
What district is this location in?
It would be in Olden,
Is it Olden?
yes.
It might be a
Kennebec,
little,
eh?
Olden
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit
Bit
of
in
Kennebec. I'm not
Kennebec.
exactly sure where the
Yeah,
boundary
But
is.
most of
there.
it's in
I think a
Olden.
bit of both.
So if you look at this Kennebec, there's only a small portion. The majority of it is in Olden.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion? Carried.
That was nice and warm in here.
It's finally warming up, yes. Okay, do we want to take a 5-minute break? There's coffee, there's some cookies out there, and then we'll come back. We are at committees and other reports and minutes. So I have a motion. Moved by Craig Middleton and seconded by Susan Irwin that the minutes of the RVCA board meetings held September 22nd, 2022 and October 27th, 2022 be received for information. And that is Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Craig Middleton, seconded by Susan Irwin, that the minutes of the District 1 Kennebec Recreation Committee meeting held October the 27th, 2022 be received for information. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried. Going forward, after you folks get involved in your committees, when these motions come up, it's going to say be received for information. And then I'm going to ask the chair or co-chair of those meetings if there's anything from the meeting you want to bring our attention to. So if there is something that's there, then I want to hear about it so we can all hear about it so that things don't get left on the table and become things that we didn't get done. Okay, so that's just a forewarning. That's how we'll do new business. Moved by Craig Middleton, seconded by Susan Irwin, that the minutes of the District 4 Hinchinbrook Recreation Committee meeting held November the 1st, 2022 be received for information. Discussion, Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a list of requests in the meeting minutes, and I'm just wondering, they come to us at council. Do they get circulated to the proper department for those items to be worked on?
That's
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Smith. Yes, I did send the list to Tyson.
And is there a response that comes back? Maybe that's what we need to do is the follow-up, right?
Follow up.
Yeah. Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just request that in the January meeting that we do put the rink on the agenda, whether it be enclosed or in open, and try and tie up some loose ends there.
Yes.
Please and thank you.
Yes, yeah, okay. All right, all those in favor of the Hinchinbrook information? Carried. Moved by Craig Middleton, seconded by Susan Irwin, that council received the approved minutes from the Waste and Recycling Committee meeting held September the 6th, 2022, and the draft minutes from the Waste and Recycling Committee meeting held November 23rd, 2022 for information. Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if someone could define what commercial waste is, and if that's our local businesses, where exactly do we expect them to take their waste? In the minutes, it talks about not accepting commercial waste.
I'll ask Bill to speak to that.
Commercial waste actually falls under three or contains three things. It's institutional, commercial, and I've lost the first. It's ICI anyway, industrial, commercial, and institutional. If technically we take out commercial waste, we take out all three. That means even council can't, or township can't take the garbage to the dump. But in reality, most of the businesses here only take their recycling to the dump anyway. They all have bins if they're a large commercial outfit and get it hauled away. So it's only the small mom and pops that put out their garbage or take their garbage to the dump.
Okay.
That was a comment in the minutes, but if we're changing what's accepted, that would come to council for a final decision.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, yes. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Right, next is moved by Craig Middleton, seconded by Susan Irwin, that council received the following correspondence for information. And it's number 1 to number 28. Typically, when you get the list of correspondence, if there's something on there that you would like to have removed to discuss later, or you need a staff to do a report on, we can pull it from the correspondence list and just add it for the next meeting to be researched and brought back. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. You will find that municipalities pass motions and they share them with 444 other municipalities. And the thing to remember is that every time you do that, staff spend a lot of time crafting a letter and getting it out to all the individuals, like 444 municipalities and all the members of parliament and on and on and on. So unless it's an issue that is really something we want to get into the fray of the mix, we try not to do those kind of resolutions unless it's really important. Okay, I have a motion. We're at bylaws. Moved by Craig Middleton, seconded by Susan Irwin, that bylaw 2022-69 being a bylaw to amend Schedule A of bylaw number 2002-125 as amended for the naming and or renaming of public highways and private lanes be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 13th day of December. All those in favor, or any question? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Craig Middleton, seconded by Susan Irwin, that bylaw 2022-70 being a bylaw to adopt a joint multi-year accessibility plan 2023-2027 be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass this 13th day of December 2022. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Lots of bylaws tonight. Moved by Lynn Klekus and seconded by Susan Irwin, that bylaw 2022-71 being a bylaw to appoint a committee of adjustment for 2023 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 13th day of December 2022. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Lynn Klekus, seconded by Susan Irwin, that bylaw 2022-72 being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy and to provide for the payment of taxes and to provide for penalty and interest of 1.25% per month be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 13th day of December 2022. Discussion? All those in favor? Interim bills go out when, Michael?
Soon as possible, New Year. That's why we used to have it for January meeting, then we are rushing it there to get this. We have to have bills out to taxpayers 21 days before they're due. So this makes it a lot easier. So I made a note today to try and put it in November at the second meeting versus make it a little bit longer for council tonight.
So at some point, if you're in the township office, you'll see boxes and boxes and boxes or piles and piles and piles of tax bills laying around.
Yeah.
But fret not, they get into our mailboxes really quickly after that.
They do. Thank you.
There you go.
And then there's some of us that get them hand delivered.
Okay, moved by Lynn Klekus, seconded by Sue Irwin, that bylaw 2022-73 being a bylaw to appoint fence viewers and establish remuneration and application fee be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 13th day of December 2022. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried. We don't normally have 40 motions in our meetings, but it's been a heavy agenda. Moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Lynn Klekus, that bylaw 2022-74 being a bylaw to appoint livestock evaluators and establish remuneration be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass this 13th day of December 2022. All those in favor? Carried. My goodness, we got a couple more. Moved by Sue Irwin, seconded by Lynn Klekus, that bylaw 2022-75 being a bylaw to permanently close, declare surplus, and sell part of a highway. Roland Siteman be read a first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 13th day of December 2022. Discussion? Oh, Craig?
Where are these road closures located?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Middleton, the Roland Siteman is off of let's say in the report. It's on the east basin of Charlotte Lake. And it's I know it as well as my shoot. It's not Polar Bear Lane, but you go in off of the same road.
Down Shibley Road, though.
Shibley, and then one of the other ones. There's 3 or 4 cottages just past this that also use that private lane for access, so that they'll be getting easements. And I can look in the map.
That's okay. That's okay. We already passed the motion to do this. This is just the bylaw.
That's gonna bug me though.
Cootley Point.
Thank you. Cootley Point. Cootley Point. Thank
There you
you.
go.
Shibley Road.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Lynn Cleckus, that bylaw 2022-76 being a bylaw, we just did, oh no, this is another one. To permanently close, declare surplus, and sell part of a highway, Emery. Be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passes 13th day of December 2022. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Lynn Cleckus, that Councillor Lynn Cleckus be appointed to the Economic Development Committee in addition to Councillor Susan Irwin. And further, that Councillor Susan Irwin replace Councillor Craig Middleton on the Charlotte Lake Farmers Market Committee. Just a bit of background about that. Lynn had mentioned when we had our inaugural meeting that the Economic Development Committee could use 2 people and she'd be interested. And I totally agree that it could use 2 councillors. So that's what this is. And Craig has a conflict in that the farmers market chairperson is a relative. So he would just as soon not have that committee. Plus he's not short committee. So Susan said she would take it on. So that's the background to those motions. Any discussion? Yes.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. What will there be a huge financial change by adding a second person to the economic development?
No. The idea behind the Economic Development Committee was last time it was basically Charlotte Lake that they were concentrating on. And we want to start moving that model out to the other wards. And we think by having Lynn to start with that, to see what she can glean out of what's already taken place and what's going forward to take it into the Kennebec area, we'll start the model for then going to Hinchlebrook and Olden and moving around. So we've got some extra work for her to do.
I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to, Councillor Gowdy, but there is the per diems that councillors can claim for the meeting. So having 2 councillors at a meeting would increase that by a little bit.
But they don't meet every month, do they? The Economic Development Committee?
They try, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it would increase. But we do have 2 people on a fair number of committees.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. So if there was other committees that other councillors had said, for example, waste management, I had an interest there, but because Bill and Lynn had such strong feelings about it, I backed away. But so if I really wanted to be on waste management, I could come to you and say I wanted to be on another committee?
Well, you could if there was only 1 on that committee, but if there's already 2, 3 is too many.
Yeah.
But if there's another committee with 1, there isn't an issue with putting another person on. Because remember, the mayor is ex officio on those committees. So if there's 3 councillors and I'm there, that's 4 people that when you come to vote, it's not a good situation.
Yes, we have to watch for the quorum, so.
Yeah. And in actual fact, Susan came to observe at the waste management meeting, and we made it clear that she could not vote, she could only observe. So any member of council can go to any committee meeting to observe the discussion. You just can't vote on issues or take part in the meeting. So you're welcome. And that's another thing, we should have a schedule so that everybody knows when all the meetings are, because you might be interested in just sitting in depending on what is what's happening at the committee that particular time. Yeah. And that's something I don't think we really did much of last term that we should do. Okay, it's good way to share information.
Yeah, I think that, because I think Chris has asked, if everybody would know, what committees and when they're going to meet, then he can certainly put it on on our calendar so that everyone will know when the committees are.
Craig and then Philip. Oh, yours is good. Okay, Philip.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask about the per diem for committee meetings, because I thought if they were inside the township, it was kind of included in the remuneration for council already. And you got mileage if you were attending meetings outside of the municipality.
The way it works is if you look at your expense sheet, it will tell you at the bottom what committees you can claim your hours for. And if you've spent if you spend 3 hours, you can get $75. If it's 6 hours, then it's $150 plus the mileage for those meetings. Council does not count, nor does committee of adjustment. So it's only committee meetings.
Sorry, so you can claim mileage within the municipality?
No. I don't think you did mileage, did we? Or maybe.
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay.
I think we did, yes.
And I think that's something you can certainly further look at budget time. You may want to change that per diem.
Well, and counselors will need to have a look at that sheet as well.
Yes,
We will
absolutely.
get that to you and sort of go over how it works.
I think we did circulate an email. This would have been right after the election, I
Election,
think, and I think it included a copy of the policy. If it didn't, we can certainly dig it out and send it off to everybody. Because there was some confusion about what committees counted and that kind of stuff. So if you don't have that email or can't find it, just reach out to me and we can send it off.
And
Yeah,
at the
'cause-
end of the year, there's a statement that comes out of the amount of money we've all made in all the different things that we do, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what that's called, but it's,
Yeah, Michael does all those,
Yeah.
the financial stuff.
and it's public information. Okay. Nikki?
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Can we also look at budget time at what you get for lunches, breakfast, lunch and
Oh.
supper as well, because you'll be shocked coming out of me. It's very little at the cost of food is right now.
Especially if you're at a conference in Toronto or Ottawa. Yeah, it's not a lot.
We
Yeah.
can certainly look at that. Cindy, did you make a note of that too for,
Good.
for budget? Thank you.
Good stuff. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Okay. This is declaring something in a blank that's not filled in. Okay, moved by,
Sorry, that was updated and maybe it just didn't get printed out. So I got more information about that event.
declares as an event.
Yeah, hang on.
I've got it in this, here it is here. It's,
Yeah.
he's going to have this is it. It's called the Dead Root Revivals Wintertide Meltdown. It's live at the Oso Hall here, January the 13th. They're having food is by Frenchie's, the beer is by Kick and Push Brewery. And it tells you the two musicians, Dead Root Revival and Rock Zeman. It's a fundraiser, I understand, but that's all the information I have in regards to that.
Okay, so the motion is moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Lynn Cleggus, that council declares the Dead Root Revival Meltdown.
Wintertide.
Now listen, there's not enough room here. as an event of municipal significance, and further that the CAO clerk be authorized to sign a letter in support or other documentation that may be required from the Alcohol Gaming Commission Ontario in order to apply for a special occasion permit.
And the reason they have to do that is because we own the premises. So anything that municipality owns that those organizations wish to have on our property, then we have to sign and give them permission to be able to have
And
the alcohol.
if there are any questions, I think we do have one or two of the folks on the line if there's any questions for the organizers.
Okay, Bill?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, did it say what the fundraiser was for?
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't say.
They might be able to answer.
I'm not sure it's a fundraiser. I think it's just an event that they're organizing for the community.
I guess the question for me is what is different between this group renting the hall and if I were going to rent the hall for an event?
I took a quick look at
and have a
the,
bar?
yeah, I took a quick look at the AGCO requirements, and because it's a public event where they're selling tickets and the public's invited, that seems to trigger the requirement. If it's a private event that somebody is organizing and not necessarily inviting the wider public, then it's not required.
See, there's two different things, right?
Okay.
Because if you have also if the recreation committee has one here, or because they're all part of the municipality anyway, same as the fundraisers, I think there was just happened on the weekend.
Right.
It was private, but you had just sold tickets, but you didn't open up to the public and have everybody come in to purchase. You did tickets ahead of time.
Yes.
So I think there's a little difference, and I think Cindy's right under the ACGO now, under their regulations.
Craig, did you have a comment? Bill?
That sounds like it would be a much more responsible thing for us, because if they're doing it commercially, is that a liability for us? Things like guarding the doors and for alcohol laws and everything else.
Well, that's part of the rental agreement with the hall. There's insurance arrangements and with the permit holder, they take responsibility for providing the smart serve and the security arrangements and stuff like that as well.
So they on, did you say they were on?
Is there anyone from the event online that could speak to us?
Yeah, this is Daniel. I'm on the line. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to speak earlier, but I think it was double muted or something. What's the question?
The question was, is this a charity event?
No, so I didn't organize it, but it's my understanding it's not a charity event or a fundraiser. It's simply an event to showcase some local music and get people together to go out and have a bit of fun and enjoy some local music and food and beverage.
Okay. Okay, any questions from council? Lynn, go ahead.
Yes, Madam Mayor, can we get a copy of that to see?
Yeah.
Can it be distributed to all of us?
Do you want to just hand it down for people to look at now?
I'd just love to see more about it.
Yeah.
Sure. Do we have extra copies of that?
No, I just printed off the one. I think they haven't been promoting it yet in terms of putting the posters out, just because they were waiting for confirmation that they could get the license and the hall rental secured. So
I guess get a copy of it when it is.
yeah, I can certainly circulate it by email. Yep.
I guess one of the questions would be security, that alcohol isn't outside and that sort of thing. Will there be people monitoring that?
Yeah, that's something we'll certainly have to take care of to the best of our ability. The idea will be that the alcohol is only sold and consumed inside. Anybody handling the alcohol will be Smart Serve certified.
Yeah, it's a little different when we're supporting this as a municipal event or a municipal significance than just someone renting the hall to have a party.
Yeah, the challenge is there's only, with the AGCO, there's two options you can choose. One is a special occasion permit public and a special occasion permit private.
Okay.
And if you go private, you can't advertise. It's by invite only, which this is not how this is going to be run. We're going to advertise and try to sell 100 or so tickets. So it's a public event. And then if it's a public event, they ask if there is any municipal or provincial significance. And if you say no, that's kind of where the application ends.
Okay. And where does the profit go?
Well, I didn't organize it, so with a bit
If
of
there
luck.
is a
there'll be-
profit.
Yeah, with a bit of luck, there'll be a bit of profit on the beer sales, and that would stay with me. The idea is that the ticket sales, the profit goes to the bands.
Right.
The bands, I believe, will be collecting the money from the ticket sales, and then they will cover the cost of the hall rental, and anything left over would be for the two bands.
Okay. So it's something to give people something to do in January.
That's a big part of it. In the middle of January, get people out and get them together, but also to support local musicians.
Okay. Bill, you have a question?
Madam Mayor, they mentioned 100 tickets. What's the license arrangement for this building?
133, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor? Motion's carried. We'll see you at the party.
Thank you.
All right. Flip the page here. Is there any notice of motions?
No, there is not.
Yes, there is. We've got a.
Oh, okay.
No, I was hoping, Madam Mayor, maybe some new or other business. You made a land acknowledgement at the beginning of the meeting,
Yes.
and I don't believe our procedural manual actually addresses.
Not
that.
yet, it doesn't. No.
So will that be coming? to
That
us
will
to
come forth to
discuss?
council. We are going to be updating the procedural bylaw, and those things will be in there for discussion purposes.
So should we be doing that prior to the procedural bylaw being amended, or?
I think it's a nice thing to do if we are in fact recognizing our native indigenous people. And AMO has suggested that because of truth and reconciliation, that it's something municipalities start doing, and some have been doing it for years. But yes, our procedural bylaw will need to be changed. That, and I think the other thing in the procedural bylaw is moving delegations up closer to the beginning of the meeting instead of after all the staff reports. If they wish to stay, that's great, but if they don't want to stay, it allows them to leave earlier. Okay,
Okay, so we will be.
okay, so there's no notices of motion.
No,
Any
there's not.
giving of notices of motion?
No,
Any new or other business, additional appointments and amendments to various committees? We did that.
yes, Madam Mayor.
Declaration of event being held, we did that.
Correct.
I'm going backwards before I go ahead. All right, there's no closed session. Is there anything else to come before council? I have a motion. Moved by Lynn Clegg, seconded by Susan Irwin, that bylaw 2022-77, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held December 13th, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 13th day of December 2022. And further, this meeting be adjourned until 4 p.m. January the 10th, 2023. Said meeting to be held at the Soldiers Memorial Hall, Garrett Street, Charlotte Lake. All those in favor? 6:09, we are adjourned, and I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. And I very much look forward to working with everybody for the next 4 years. Good meeting, lots of work done.
Did you pass, or did you sign all?
Not a thing yet.
Okay, you have signed them, because then I'm just gonna leave all that, send you them, because I said there's no sense in me doing the